not always as integrated in some of the initiatives as you are with this particular project. What do you think was the impetus for you all being able to bring Mary on, or for Mary for you to be able to join this?
Let me quick say something, and then I'll let Mary fully respond, which is because Jessica mentioned it before. Like, I think one of the ways that Manchester, there's two ways that collaboration in Manchester historically has happened, and that is through individual relationships. Like, it wasn't always at the organizational level. Like, there was lots of individuals partnering in different ways, maybe just around programs. And so I think we've seen the organizational partnership and investment in partnership and collaboration and integration even, like, really expand in the last, I would say, 5 years, certainly the last 3 to 5 years, in ways that we just didn't see it before. But I think it does start with individual relationships. Like, Jessica and I knew each other from the early childhood space. Mary and I, when she worked at the state, like, knew each other from the early childhood mental health space. So those just smaller connections and getting to know each other work can actually blossom into something really spectacular. And Manchester, I think, lives in a sweet spot where we're the largest city north of Boston, but we're still only at 112-ish thousand people. So we have a lot of the challenges that large cities have, and some of the things like child poverty rates that places like Boston and New York City have. But we're in a small state where lots of people know each other, and in a community where the population size, although on some days it feels like, oh my gosh, over 100,000 people, at the same time, we're not trying to address really complex problems for 4 million people, right? So it's a nice place to be, I think, where we're big but small.
I think that Laura's spot on, that Laura and I knew each other before I came to Manchester School District, and we had worked on some early childhood mental health work. So when I came here, it was Laura and I just connecting and saying, this has not gotten done. I don't know what the barrier is for the coordinating with schools. So it's just, I think that individual relationship definitely assisted. I think some of the difficulties for school is that parental trust of a school. So getting parents to say, hey, I'm willing to allow the school to have some of this information, and then making sure the school, like I said, uses that with such protected gloves, and making sure that not everybody is aware of everything going on in a child's life, but those who need to know. And it just took some time to say, who do we identify in each school? Because it would be easy to say we want all school counselors, but is the school counselor really the right person? Maybe to follow up on something, but who's the person that needs to know right now? Is it always the principal? So we just worked individually through each school and identified roles and people who we felt with the principal that would be the right person to keep this information obviously confidential, but to be able to pass it on when needed, and make all those connected efforts.
And so, to follow up on that, is that what you all landed on, that it was made the most sense for yourself and the principal at the respective school to be kind of the people who are brought in? Or is that what you all felt was the right approach for your particular school district?
We didn't say it was necessarily the principal. We worked with the principal to identify who. So it could be different roles at different schools, and respecting that culture within that school, because like Laura had originally said, some schools were just fully operational with relationships, and other schools didn't have those community partners in relationship and where to start that. So it's a variety of people.
Got you. So you all help figure out who the best people are based on each individual situation. So even from a school district level, it may look very different from one school to the next, depending on who's at the school and kind of the infrastructure even the individual schools have.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
That sounds like a very complex process, so I can understand. You know, a lot of times people want to do things at a school district level. You know, we're going to have this policy, but it sounds like for you all, you figured out like, no, it has to be even more local, even within the school district itself. Like one policy may not fit all, even within a school district, which is interesting.
New Hampshire has a strong culture of local control.
Okay.
And that permeates down to the local level, I think, in many ways. I think there's certainly things, obviously, policies, et cetera, that need to be district-wide, but recognizing that we have, you know, as Mary said, we have 22 schools. 14 of those are elementary. They're small, close communities, and how things happen in the day-to-day can just vary. And they're neighborhood-based, so our neighborhoods in our community are really different. So it was, and that was the struggle initially when you know there was sort of broad buy-in from the district, like, yeah, we should be a partner, but not being able to figure out how to like sort of operationalize it. And so, you know, while the release allows the parent to write in the child's school, on the back end, because of the MOU, we have that, essentially it's a spreadsheet of like who the contacts are, who the right contacts are at each school. So when our ACERT staff are connecting with the school, they know exactly who that person is. And they can say that to the family, like, oh, at, you know, Jewett Street School, I'm going to contact, you know, Miss whomever. So parents know too who the information is going to. So that's helpful. I will say, Mary made me think of that too, that in the end, like each organization needs a champion. Like Matt is the champion of ACERT at the police department, and Katie and I at Amoskeag Health, and Jessica, and I mean, there are other people too that are champions, but like to move it forward and really get to the place where things are operational, like, and Mary's that for the district. Like you need champions to get things going and get people to buy in to keep it moving forward.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I think we're starting to see that be a clear message across some of these things, as it's not happening unless there's folks like you all who are championing these efforts and have been at this for quite some time. It's a lot of long-standing work that we see the project now, but it sounds like it's been years and years in the making. Even before you knew you were going to do this, you had already been working on these relationships and had some passion for doing kind of the underlying work anyways, and finding those people who seem really committed to just these types of this mission in general. It seems like you all have found those active ingredients in terms of who is really committed to doing this. And I know we are almost at time, so I never give Kathy enough time to ask a question, but sorry, Kathy, if you have any burning questions to follow up on before we sign off, please.
No, you ask all the good questions, so I'm never offended. And I don't have any additional questions. I will just say that I was like nodding along at so many things that all of you said, not just because, you know, we've heard some of the similar themes arising in all of our conversations, but just it's very apparent from this conversation that you all have that collaborative sort of spirit and system in place that we're really trying to highlight through these conversations and in that report. So just thank you for taking the time. And I know a handful of you mentioned staying in your lane, but as sort of a positive, which I think that's something that it can be used in a very not positive way, but the way you all have sort of set up the way you're working together, and then understanding of we need to be working together X, Y, and Z, but we also have our very specific areas of expertise that let's not double up the work where we don't need to, is a really sort of important lesson, I think, for other jurisdictions will be able to learn from you all. So yeah, I have nothing else. I would just, unless Antoinette, you want to sneak one last question in, just thank you all again for taking the time, and I